A shot of adrenaline rushes through his veins as his eyes fall upon something that his dog is sniffing. It's a dark bloodstain, more like a path. This is not something you see every day, and curiosity gets the better of him, so he follows it. The trail leads him towards the bank of the Dole Canal in the north of France. Without knowing it, each step is bringing him closer to a body. Then he sees her. She is colourless, still, and submerged halfway in the water. The police arrive at the scene and they check the body and surrounding area thoroughly for any information that can help identify the body. There is no bag, no phone, no bank cards on her. They remove her body for autopsy. Then they check the missing persons database in the local area, but they come up blank. They collect as much as possible from the surroundings of the body. Cigarette butts, miscellaneous bits of rubbish to try and get some DNA samples. As an extra measure, to ensure they haven't missed anything, they call in a professional diver to check the bed of the canal. Lying at the bottom, just 1 meter away from their Jane Doe, is a car jack. It is not rusty and it looks like it has not been there long. So using a small serial number that they find on the jack, they trace it. It was from a Renault Twingo that had been fabricated in 1977. They don't know this yet, but this will be a key piece of evidence in this case. She was strangled, but that's not how she died. The pathologist remarks that she had succumbed to the blows to her face, which correspond to the carjack. It seems likely that the carjack was the weapon used to beat her to death. If so, it tells us something about the crime. A carjack is not exactly the easiest or most practical way to murder someone, so it's unlikely this was premeditated. Her blood work indicates that she was neither drunk or had taken any substances, indicating that she was completely conscious when she was attacked. Yet she had no marks on her arms or hands, indicating that she had struggled or fought for her life. She was also fully clothed and there is nothing to indicate any SA. And the autopsy uncovers one lead that can help them possibly uncover her identity. She has a stamp on the back of her hand, the kind of stamp you get when you're going clubbing, and it's from the Flibustier Club. When they check out the CCTV, they find that she left the club at 3 a.m. They ask around the staff and the regulars to find out if anyone knows her or if they remember seeing her or talking to her that evening. No one remembers seeing her. They are running out of options and they only have one idea left to try and find out who she is. They hold a televised press conference asking anyone who may know this young girl to come forward. They describe what she was wearing, her hair, her location, anything they can think of to help move this case forward. Clelia Medina's mum, Carole, sees the news. She knows her daughter was at the club that night. She drove her there. She also hasn't heard from her for 36 hours. She had been frantically calling all the family and friends to try and figure out where she was. And after seeing the news, she's beginning to panic, but she is in complete denial that it even could be her daughter Clelia. It's one of Clelia's cousins that calls into the station. The cousin is asked to confirm further details to decipher whether the body is Clelia's, such as piercings that she has. As the questions are validated, they begin to realize that they have found their girl. Clelia's mother Carole is in shock. Her daughter was just a normal girl who was happy and studying accountancy of all things. Nobody would want her dead. All of her friends and families loved her. Carole states that on their way to the club, they were picking up Justine, and Clelia was frustrated because they were running late. Carole, being the protective mother she is, needs to make sure that Clelia has a safe way to get home. Clelia reassures her not to worry because she was going to be accompanied home by Julien, who Carole knows well and trusts. Julien Sailly is Clelia's ex-boyfriend. They had been together for a year and they remained friends even though they had broken up 6 months ago. When they check the phone records, it is confirmed. Clelia did indeed call Julien when she left the club that evening. The police don't need to arrest him because he is very willing to help with the investigation. As soon as he heard what had happened to Clelia, he came to the police station from his own volition. In his statement to the police, he says that Clelia had called him as he was coming out of the cinema. So he drives to the club, picks up Justine and Clelia, drops off Justine first at her house and then Clelia. Immediately after dropping them off at around 4:30, he heads home and turns off his mobile phone because he doesn't want to be disturbed for the rest of the evening. The detectives then describe to him exactly what had happened to Clelia, with all the graphic details as to how she was strangled and then brutally beaten with blows from a jack aimed directly to her face before being thrown in the Dull. And he doesn't seem too upset or shocked by this. Up until this point, Julian has been very helpful. He came into the police station without prompt to help with the investigation. And he has been very forthcoming with information. But the fact that he didn't show any kind of visceral reaction here just made him suspect number one. Next, the detectives ask him if they can check out his car. This is the last known place Clelia was before we found her body. And again, Julian is ready and willing. He has actually driven his car to the police station, so they go outside to the police station car park to check it out. Julian leads them through the car park, right up to his 1997 Renault Twingo. When they open it, they are hit with the strong odor of cleaning detergent. It's obvious that it has recently had a quite thorough clean. Just a teeny weeny bit suspicious. They go around to the back of the car and open the trunk. You can probably guess what they're looking for here. They lift up the mat in the trunk, and where there should be a car jack, there is nothing. But Julian has an explanation for them. He had just bought the car only 10 days ago, and it didn't have the jack in it when he bought it. This could maybe also explain why it was so clean. The car gets scrutinized for traces of blood, and they do find a couple of drops, but none of it is Clelia. Julian is the most clear-cut suspect in this case. We know they were together before she was murdered, and the car jack is strong circumstantial evidence. But Clelia's parents and family seem convinced that it wasn't Julian. They have known him for over a year, and they're convinced that he's a pretty nice guy. Then a woman who happens to be walking by the Dull finds another piece of evidence. It's a towel covered in blood, and it's only 400 meters away from where they found the body. They check the DNA, and to their surprise, they find a match. A match to a man who is 23 years old named Rashid, who has multiple convictions to his name. They bring him in, and he states that his car had broken down just really near where Clelia had been murdered. And so when he was fixing it, he cuts himself, wipes the blood off with a towel, and forgot to put the towel back in the car before driving off, as you do. On top of this, he knows Clelia. He's seen her many times in the club, but he has a rock solid alibi. Julian is placed in prison, and he stays there for a whole year waiting for his trial. But with such little evidence, his lawyers make a request for his release until the trial date, and it is accepted. Therefore, he is freed from jail to await the court hearing. Once the trial finally gets underway in 2011, it is a chaotic scene. The lengthy period between Clelia's murder and the court hearing has allowed for tension to grow between Julian and Clelia's family. Clelia's family have now become convinced of Julian's guilt. In their eyes, he is their daughter's murderer. Equally, there is an intense animosity between the defense and the jury. A palpable tension that trickles down into an already very agitated courtroom audience, prompting a physical brawl to break out on the courtroom floor. The police manage to intervene in time before anyone is seriously injured, physically pulling the families off of each other. Therefore, the case gets adjourned. The families will have to wait another whole year until 2012 before the trial can restart. Justine, who was in the car the night that Clelia was murdered, is one of the first witnesses to take the stand. She brings up an interesting text message conversation that had happened in the car. She recalls that Clelia had received a message from a friend alerting her to the fact that Julian, her ex-boyfriend, had now started dating Priscilla, one of her close friends. Clelia got upset and a pretty heated argument breaks out between Clelia and Julian. They begin hitting each other, leading to Clelia trying to jump out of the moving car. But Julian pulls her back in by the neck. When the car reaches Justine's house, the atmosphere is so severe that everyone gets out, but continue to argue. Justine at this moment tries to encourage Clelia not to get back in the car, but rather stay the night at her house. But Clelia declines, gets back in the car with Julian and waves her last goodbye to her friend Justine. Next to testify is Clelia's parents. They remember a couple of occasions when they went on holiday with him and he loses his cool over little things. On one occasion, getting so mad that he went to get a knife. Luckily, this situation never culminated into anything serious. Well, at that time. In another one of Julian's ex-girlfriend's witness statements, she recalls a time when, in a fit of rage, he had tried to strangle one of her friends. This is building a rather dark picture of Julian. However, back in 2008, when the first police statements were taken, oddly, nobody had anything bad to say about Julian, including Clelia's parents. And in fact, in the beginning, before they had seen any of the circumstantial evidence, they were convinced that Julian had nothing to do with her murder. He is, however, sent for a psychological analysis, and when the results come back, they find him to be impulsive and uncontrollably aggressive. When they look further into the phone records of Julian and Clelia that evening, they find that they were together at 5 a.m. So he had lied about dropping her off at 4:30. The records also show that at 5:10, he had messaged Priscilla, his new girlfriend, to tell her that he was definitely no longer with Clelia. Then he turns his phone off. Priscilla then calls Clelia to verify this, but by this point, Clelia is unreachable. Coincidence? I think no. The court tries desperately to get a confession because all of the evidence is circumstantial. Julian is even called forward to testify in front of the jury, but he remains adamant that he is innocent. Priscilla then takes to the stand for the first time as a witness. She was Julian's girlfriend at the time, and the phone records show that she had tried to contact Clelia at the time of Clelia's death. Although visibly shaken, she makes a remarkable statement. She says she feels like it's all her fault that Clelia is dead because she was dating Julian at the time. The prosecution sees this moment as the nuances in her statement open the door for a very interesting line of questioning. They ask her, "Do you think Julian killed Clelia?" She nods, then confirms verbally that she is sure of it. And her reason for never saying anything earlier is that she was scared he would kill her too. Julian is found guilty of murder and given 20 years in prison. And as he's leaving the courtroom, he turns to the Medina family. He says, "Stop smiling. In any case, you know the truth. I'll be out again soon." That is chilling. I would be freaking out. Julian, in essence, killed Clelia twice. He tried strangling her, and when that didn't work, he bludgeoned her with a car jack. Subsequently, whilst in prison, he has threatened to kill one of the prison guards because they wouldn't let him move prisons. Do you think they got the right guy? Let me know in the comments. If you love juicy courtroom trials, then check out the Lionel Veronez case. It is spicy. And of course, hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see and help this channel grow. Most importantly, our thoughts and prayers are with Clelia, her mother, and her friends and family. Peace, love, bisous.